But it's really, really nice to have you back here, Todd, because we've been chatting just like 4 months ago. It was in October, if you recall. And
Yep.
it's really nice to just for you to have the time to chat with just some French journalist who likes to write about comics in France. But it seems because I noticed that you've been doing quite a lot of interviews, even for American websites. So is it like really an objective for you to spend some time to just do interviews and promote your comics and your universe?
Um, Arnold, I think that you have to pick your times and your places when you are trying to get the media to be your friend, right? If you go to them all the time and try and get them to get excited every month, I think that can be a negative. So what I try to do is make sure that when we reach out, we actually have something meaningful to talk about. And then it may not be another 6 months or a year before I have something else that I think uh, people should be talking about, right? So, but for now, we got 350, and I've got the 30th anniversary officially beginning of the toy company, and those I think are worth sort of standing at the top of the mountain and yelling about it a bit. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I was impressed actually because there's not so many creators that are just willing to speak with media, even though they have something to speak about. So I'm grateful
I
also.
to be fair, I think that most creators, I'm in a unique position that because I have these companies, I employ a lot of people, right? So I have people that while I'm doing my drawing and my writing, I've got people that can help set these things up, right? And so I don't think that it's, in all honesty, I don't think that it's creators don't want to. I think they just don't have the time or the inclination to get it done. Like they got to get the work done, right? They're working, and so they don't. If they had other people that could help them, then I'm sure they would. So I'm just fortunate that I've got good people that help push the boulder up the hill for all the things we do. Yep.
Okay, so we are starting to reach spawn 350. We spoke a little bit about it the last time we spoke, but it was yet to come. Now it's really at the corner around. So
Yep.
and the press release that we got said that really it will be a turning point for the series, but also for the whole universe.
Yep.
Like you're going to set a plot that was like established like 200 issues before. So
250.
250, yeah,
250.
250 actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, issue 100, the throne became vacant, right? And so for 250 issues, it's been vacant. Uh, I've made mention of it, right? I've made mention of it in the comic books from time to time, but it's only been recently that somebody discovered that if you actually sit upon the throne and you can make it your own, it will multiply your power. And so once that information was given, then people who were going, wow, I'm only this much weaker than my enemy, but if I can double or triple that, I'm going to be the boss, right? So it's become a focus, and we're going to finally get our answer in 350 of who's gonna sit upon the throne.
And
So
I and
then this is why I keep saying 350 is a good book, I think, for a curious buyer to look at for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to look fantastic. Brett Booth and Carlo Barberi are doing amazing artwork, like top notch, and the coloring on it is terrific. And Rory McConville has written a good story. 40, it's going to be 40 pages. and the book's going to cost $4.99. Right? There are many comic books here in America that are 20 pages for $4.99. I'm going to give you 40 for the same price. So I'm going to give you, forget what's inside, I'm going to give you twice as much for the same price, but it's going to be high quality. It's going to be an anniversary book. You're going to get an answer to a question that has been around for 250 issues. And once you get that answer, which you will, it now is going to have an impact in all the comic books that I do moving forward. That this person sitting on the throne is now is like a catalyst, and it's going to affect the future of Earth. So I don't know, for $4.99, you could do far worse. So,
but still, the ongoing Spawn is going to be still $2.99 afterwards from
yep.
Yeah. So you're not changing that. But I was wondering, in terms of narrative structure, when did you decide that you were going to resolve a plot that was put there so much time ago? Like,
well, you know, when issue 301 came out, and that was like the record setter, but it also was when the story, you know, this sort of Big Bang theory happened, and what I call a time rip. And the time rip, and then all these characters from through time in the future and the past, they all landed on Earth today. So like that was sort of the beginning of the Spawn universe, right? And then a year, that was, so that book came out in 2019. In 2021, I began the Spawn universe, right? The Spawn universe came out, and then King Spawn, Gunslinger, and the Scorch. So I was playing a slow game of tease it in issue 301, show it on a couple of the covers, because people were asking me about a couple of the covers, especially the ones that Jerome Pena and I did. And I was like, oh, you just wait. Like, they're going, what is that? Why is there so many people on that cover? I'm like, oh, you just wait. And then we took the next step, which is introduce the new books. Because I just thought that there are so many characters now, and I didn't want Spawn's book to feel like a team-up book, right? I didn't want it to be like the Avengers. I think Spawn works best when he's by himself. So we created the other books, but as I was talking to the writers, that I also wanted to upgrade the villains, and we had to give them a big purpose. And one of the things that I mentioned to them was, guys, if these guys are as power hungry as they should be, they're like, forget defeating Spawn, whatever. Like, there's a throne. They could be a king of one of the big dimensions. Like, and if they're the king and their power gets multiplied, they may be able to take down heaven. Forget Earth. Earth is like a piece of cake, right? They may be able to take down heaven. They will be like arguably a master of the universe. So that was us focusing on it. And once we started focusing on it, then it was like, hey, why don't we make this the climax as we're heading to issue 350, since we've got to have I think, a big story for an anniversary issue.
And you mentioned also, at least in the press release, that the 351 will be the perfect jumping point for the Spawn universe, and that will be the case for all the three other series. And we had an argument last time about the numbering, because you're still onto, like, you're not going to relaunch anything. But how do you think that in terms of maybe even in communication terms, how can you convince someone that a 351 issue is going to be a good jumping point?
Because I think, well, I would argue 350 is the start.
350 there.
You're gonna get the sort of anniversary story, right? Uh-oh, can you hear the gardeners outside?
Nope.
Oh, okay. If it gets too, I can move. Tell me if it gets too loud. Your 350 is going to give you the punchline, the finish of a story that's 250 issues old. But you don't have to read those. You only have to read issue 350. All you have to understand is this simple concept. The throne is empty and somebody's going to sit upon it, finally. If you like, so you only need to read one issue, 350 if you want. You don't have to go back and read the others. Once you get that answer, at the end of 350, you're going to get your answer. So you're at the table and you go, wow, I only had to read one issue and I got the answer to 250 issues. And the answer is an ending to that question. Who will sit on the throne? It's an ending. At the exact same time, it's a new beginning because the person sitting on it has direct impact on what's going to happen now moving forward. So you're going to get in the same book, 350, the end and the beginning of something new. And Spawn 351 and my other titles are going to all basically be the after effect of somebody sitting on the throne. So if you notice things being different in these books, you're going to know it's because of what happened in 350. So you can get on and then go from there, boom, and go, oh, that's why everything's different, because of 350. Oh, okay, I get it. Right? It's no different. It's no different than buying issue 300 and 301, right? If you buy issue 300 and 301, you now know why there's so many characters running around the Spawn universe now, right? Because you got the story and you go, oh, that's why Gunslinger can be in modern time. That's why medieval can be in modern time. Oh, okay, I get it. I get it, because I just had to read that one, 300, 301. Boom, when the time rip came. This 350 is kind of the same thing.
It really seems to me like you must have like some really creative or editorial meetings with all with the other writers just to set the events and to run into the same directions while also allowing the creators to go in their own direction. Is it something that is hard to manage, because you've been doing this for quite a time and it's not the first time that also you've got like different books in like a I'm just losing my words because I'm still French. Like you've been doing parallel books with the Spawn ongoing for quite some time, so it's not really new for you. But it really seems like now with the Spawn universe, you took it to another level.
I would say that the hardest part is trying not to completely break something that is a big part of the mythology. Now, I also try to make it so that the writers are not a slave of the past, right? I don't want them to go, oh, well, Todd did this 10 years ago, so we have to do it. I don't want that, right?
And it's a huge past with Spawn, because there are 350
no, it
issues.
is. And so what my job is to listen to the ideas that the writers want, right? I mean, because I should be letting them come up with the idea. And then, because I know more than anybody else about the 350 issues, my job is not to say you can't, or even if you're sort of bending something, my job is to figure out how to make it work. And then become the cheerleader, right? Let me give you an example. One of the ideas that somebody had, one of the writers was saying, hey, I want to take this character and I want them to marry, at some point I want them to get married to this character because I have this idea. If they're together, then I have this idea. And I thought it was an interesting idea. And I thought it was a good idea. And so what I had to say was, no, this is good and this is good. We have a problem. This person is currently married. You don't know that yet because you haven't read all the books, but this person's married. So I'm not saying that this person can't marry this person, but you have to get this person to either get divorced or the person they're married to has to die or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Something. You have to unmarry this person, right? Then you can marry them and then you can go. So I'm not saying I like the idea and I like this, but you have to unmarry this person. Or let me ask you another question. Does it have to be that person because they're married? What if we take another character and they got married? Would that still work for you? And then I let the writers tell me whether another person, another character, they could make it work. And then I let them choose which one they want. Do you want to take a new character and marry and go up, or do you want to get this person, get them unmarried, go and then go up? Like we're going to do the story either way. The question is, how do we just do it in a way that we're not doing something that's breaking the past, right? She can't be married to two people. So that's it. I mean, it's a simple sort of example, but I just run into that, right? So sometimes I say, hey, you're doing something with their powers. He can't do that, or she can't do that. I'll give you the issues. So I'm not saying that they can't. It's just that you now have to come up with the story of how they got those powers back, right? Or vice versa. I don't like again, do what you want to do as long as we just iron out whatever wrinkles, continuity wrinkles are there just a bit. That's all.
But technically, is it all in your head, or do you have like a
Yeah.
Bible or something written done on a
Most of
wall? And
most of it's in my head, although sometimes people tell me stuff that I go, what? What did I write? I forgot about that. But to me, I'm less concerned about the details than I am about the big concepts, right? And the big concepts, to me, like we have to be true to the big concepts. And the big concepts are that heaven and hell are essentially the exact same thing. There is no good and bad. You can have a story at the end of the day in which the best person in the story was from hell and the worst person was from heaven, right? They're interchangeable to me. They're in my mind, the theory of heaven and hell, I've said it before and it's an oversimplification, is that heaven and hell are exactly the same, just one of them has a better PR team, right? So, but if you go down to checklist, they both want the same thing, right? So here's God in heaven and here's Satan in hell. Okay, what do you want? I want to dominate my enemy. Check, check. I want to be the ruler of all time, space, and dimension. Check, check. I want people on earth to bend a knee to my will. Check, check, right? Like, and because of that, I'm going to create my warriors, demons, whatever you want to call them, and I'm going to influence humans to try and go to my side. Check, check. Right. So when you go through the checkbook, the checklist, to me, they're the same. They both want domination. And so Spawn's mission has always been, and I just so you know, I'm not religious. I'm as far away from religion as you can get. So Spawn is really a reflection of me. That he's just like, I don't want hell and I don't want heaven in any of this. I don't care about either of you. Leave Earth and leave humans alone and let us live our own lives, good, bad, or indifferent. We're flawed human beings and we will make 1,000 mistakes on our own. We don't need to be nudged into any of this bullshit that you guys are doing way up above here. And so Spawn wants none of it, none of it. So he doesn't treat one side any better, any worse. Oh, by the way, the heaven that I've created, again, isn't pure. on any level, isn't pure. I would argue that the Bible is just a con job to just go, it's nothing. I'm showing it. Heaven is nothing like the Bible, but it's like, but if I can get them to think it is, then that's part of the PR. That's part of the PR. Come on, my dance hall is better than their dance hall, you know. So, and we do it, and so what we do, we have a tendency to judge. They're always like, don't judge a book by its cover, right? We say that all the time. Our moms teach us that all the time, and we all do it every day of our life. We all do it. So I don't even know why moms say something that we all do. And I would argue moms are the worst at it, right? So here's sort of the theory. Here's sort of the theory. There's heaven and there's hell. There is something bigger. And I've introduced it. Mother Nature. Mother Nature is bigger than both of them. And so you got Mother Nature, and she's got her two little boys, Cain and Abel. And they fight over this blue ball that we'll call Earth. And they're constantly fighting over it. And so what do you think moms do when her two sons are fighting? I'll take that ball away. You guys need to share it. I'll take that ball away. And so what if we were to go down into the crust of the earth and find out that the destruction of the earth has happened 3 times? And then it's basically Mother Nature just saying, I'm going to take the ball away. How does she take the ball away? The air is unbreathable and the water is, you can't drink. So no life can be sustained. It all goes away. Now, there's nothing on the blue ball. So what is Cain and Abel going to fight over? There's no humans. There's nothing there. So she's going like, fine, there. The ball, here, have the ball. There's nothing there to fight over. But Cain and Abel, heaven and hell, God and Satan, whatever you want to call them, they're just children in my head. And they can't wait for the amoeba to split and for life to begin again, because it's going to take millions of years. And so it's going to take a long time before a man comes again on earth. And so what are they going to do? They're going to fight over everything between now and mankind coming back. So they're going to draft, they're going to pick. Okay, so let's do it in our own mind right now. Or no, let's do it. If I was to say God and Satan did a draft of all the creatures right now, tell me what side do you think the animal's on? The cute little bunny.
Well, it should be on the heaven side.
Sure.
If I was naive.
Yeah. Okay. The rat.
The rat should be on hell side, of course.
Right. The viper snake.
Viper snake, hell. Hell yeah.
Right. Okay. We even go simpler. What about a ladybug?
Well, insects. You've got like negative views about insects. So a ladybug.
But I've never met a person afraid of a ladybug. Matter of fact, I see people let the ladybug crawl on them.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, ladybug, we call it in France, we call it la bête au bon Dieu, which is like a God's little pet. You know. So
right, well, right. Okay, so
but still, it's an insect.
The ladybug. So what side do we think that one's on? That's on that side. Okay, let me give you another insect, the cockroach.
Yeah, well, right? That one is a bad one.
Right. Now, if the cockroach could paint itself black and red, right, and put dots on its back, maybe people would let it crawl on it, because the ladybug does that, right? So the cockroach doesn't know it's a cockroach, had nothing to do, it just was born. And yet from the moment it comes out, I hate cockroaches. It had nothing to do with its existence. So we do this with animals. And then eventually we do it with the people. Oh, by the way, here's another piece of the Spawn mythology. The very first human being who ever died, in my theology, the very first human who ever died went to heaven. the very next person. I don't care where you are on the earth. I don't care what you are doing. I don't care who you are. The very next person, time-wise, to die goes to hell. Next person, heaven, hell, heaven, hell, heaven, hell, heaven, hell. Our destiny is predetermined. I'm going to go to the place that is the opposite of the last person who died before me. That's my destiny. So if the last person went to hell, I'm going to heaven. If the last person went to heaven, I'm going to hell.
Whatever you did in your life.
Nothing. Nothing. Has no bearing. That's why Mother Teresa can be in hell and Genghis Khan and Hitler can be in heaven.
In your mythology, yeah.
It's just a matter of circumstance. So what does that mean? That means at some point, Satan comes to God and says, hey, I got Mother Teresa. I got all these church going ladies. You know, they do nice knitting and they're very kind people. How about if I give you like 30 of them and you give me Attila the Hun? And you know what God's going to say? No. No. Why? Because remember the checklist?
Mm-hmm.
My job someday, I'm coming for you, hell, and I'm going to dominate you. And I don't need Mother Teresa. I need Attila the Hun on my side. Because when we go to Armageddon, I need badasses on my side. So I need warriors that will kill and do my bidding to destroy you at all costs. So you keep the nice people that just happen to go down there. I'm going to take the people I got and I'm going to keep them, right? So that's it. That's why they're the same. That, like, again, there's no previous things that you do prior to that. Oh, by the way, what Arno, just so you know that what I said, it's not even a stretch. The Christian Bible, as it sits today, says the exact same thing, essentially. 2 seconds before you die, if you let Jesus into your heart, you go upstairs, regardless of what you did. Regardless of what you did. So you can have killed and maimed and be on death row. And 2 seconds before, if you give in, you're upstairs, which means it doesn't matter. Because if you do the opposite, you could be nothing but good. And 2 seconds before you die, you repent, you're going downstairs. That's their rules of their book, the Bible. I didn't write it.
Yeah.
I didn't write it. That's in there. So it doesn't actually matter. People think it does, but it doesn't. The rule is as long as 2 seconds before you die, you either take him in or you expunge him. That will determine where you go, not what you did for 80 years. That's got nothing to do with it. So I'm just taking that to an extreme. So anyway, that's all the fun stuff that I get to play with for 30 years and Spawn. So when I'm talking to writers, those are sort of the conversations of, hey, here's how it works. Boom, 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 right? And then you add things like the dead zones. There's like 14 of them. And whenever a demon comes to earth, heaven gets to place them and vice versa. So again, think about playing chess with your enemy. If I get to move your piece, I'm going to make the worst move I can for you, right? So I'm not going to put your guy in a good spot. I'm going to put your guy in a bad spot. Eventually, they can get there because now we got airplanes, right? But thousands of years ago, if I put somebody on the other side of the planet, they were never getting to where it was that maybe God or Satan wanted them to be, right? Too bad. That's your problem. So anyways, these are all the silly things that spin in my head. So
must be really busy in your head. Really creative.
Well, I know I've been at it for 30 years. So
Yeah,
there,
but
it's
you have to, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it still. Yeah,
yeah,
of course. So yeah, so we're reading also that Brett Booth is going to take over as the artist on the regular series,
yeah,
and the press release says like there's an exciting classic 90s vibe to it. I'm just quoting, but also as far as you're taking like the 351 issue or 350 like a jumping point for new readers, but
look at
still,
this.
oh my, oh yeah, right.
Hold it. Let me get it brighter because like this
I saw
is
it.
like like spot like Violator and Clown are two different people now, but they're gonna merge. They're gonna merge into one in this cool scene, right? So
Hell of a beast.
there's a full yeah to this cool beast,
Yeah, that's
right?
nasty.
Yeah, look at it. Look at this cool. Look at the cool color, right? So yeah, look at. I mean, there's 40 pages of that. It's
But what I
cool.
was trying to get to is like when you're speaking about new readers, are you like thinking about like younger readers or more like older readers like myself or 40, 50 people that did just let comics a little bit down and want to get back into it with the feeling that they still have the art maybe they read 30 years ago during the 90s when Spawn was born?
Arnaud, I don't care. I don't care. Like I'll take anybody, anytime, any place. If you enjoy what we do, I'm not going to prejudge. Like I don't have a demographic. Like cool. If you're 8 years old and you can dig it, and your parents don't mind, cool. And if you're 78 and you want to buy a comic book for the first time, welcome aboard. Right. So the answer is I'll take all kinds of people. Look at as we move forward and we get to the point where we're going to make a Spawn movie, we have to acknowledge that probably 90% of the people who go to that movie will have never bought a Spawn comic book ever in their life. And probably 85% maybe have never even heard of the word or the character, right? Somebody in Argentina, somebody in Portugal, right? Somebody in your beautiful country
Yeah.
that are just like, huh, it was a cool trailer. It's written by, the writer of the Joker. It's produced by the guy who produced the Get Out or whatever movie is his latest movie, Jason Blum. It's acted by, the actors that did whatever movies, and it's directed by a director who did what, like, that's what's going to get people into the theater. They're going to go, oh, interesting, interesting idea, cool trailer, and it's got all these people that are very good. And I've seen a bunch of those movies, and I thought those movies, hopefully, were good. And the character was created by the guy who created the look of Venom. And I've been to the two Venom movies. Okay, like that's going to be the vast majority of people who end up coming. The piece of it is
Mhm.
though is that once you expand that there may be a portion of them that go, where did this Spawn character come from? And then they'll turn and they'll go, oh, it's a comic book. Oh, cool. And then they'll go look and they'll see that there's been, by that point, close to 400 issues. And they'll
Mm.
go, what? I mean, what? So I can buy a bunch of this stuff and I can get more of it in between movies? Yeah, sure. So, it worked that way for The Walking Dead, right? Robert Kirkman sold millions of trade paperbacks and collected volumes when the Walking Dead TV show came out because people were curious about the source material, right? The original source material. Cool.
Mm. But Spawn is quite 3 times longer than The Walking Dead, and there are
Yeah, I'll
spin-offs
have a good. I'll have
and
a good.
parallel books. Yeah, but
Yeah,
so they have
yeah,
to figure it out. But there's also something really important also coming in 2024 because the Spawn universe is still expanding.
yep,
You already announced like the Sam and Twitch case files will be out. The first issue will be out in March of this year. But globally, there will be going 10 more Spawn universe books. Are these going to be miniseries or ongoings, or because it's going to be a lot?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Some will be like a one shot.
Okay, so they're also going
Some will be a mini series, like 3 issues. Some will be 5 issues, 6 issues, and then the odd one will be an ongoing book, right? So I don't want to add a bunch of monthly books, but there are stories that people want to tell, and I was like, yeah, sure, like go and do it. We'll find a team, we'll put it together, we'll get it out, and that story can be told without interfering in the regular book. So it's going to be a little bit of both, right? So I'll let the fans pick the ones that they think might appeal to them the most, right? What the goal is, if you look at the titles, is to give a wide range, right? So the first one coming out of Sam and Twitch. Sam and Twitch is the name of two detectives, and the two detectives have been around since issue number 1 of Spawn. But when Sam and Twitch are not involved with something that has to do with sort of the Spawn mythology, they're just cops. They're detectives. And they're really good cops. And so the Sam and Twitch book is going to be a detective book. So people who don't like to read people in costumes, then Sam and Twitch might actually be a book that you might want to pick up, because it's going to be super grounded. It's gonna be realistic, right? And maybe going forward, every now and then they'll sort of touch a little bit into the Spawn, but I want to show them between Spawn, like being a cop, which is 98% of their time is being detectives. Then when you do something like, I think after that is Rat City, that's set in the future. And so
which has a totally different look. That's really quite amazing about like you said, the range also of visuals that we've got with the artists, because what the Karos is going to do has nothing to look like what Simon Kandinsky or even Liam Sharp will be going to do. So it's really interesting also.
Yeah. Well, and just thematically, it's again, if I had to put it in a genre bucket, it's sci-fi, right?
And then it has a look like Spider-Man 2099 or Batman Beyond. Is it like the Spawn Beyond title, or would you say?
There'd be a little bit of that, yeah. But again, we're in the future, so now you can start doing and creating new rules to the mythology of, like, what's the impact of there being an Al Simmons Spawn 100 years ago? How does that impact the world 100 years further, right? So I don't know. The existence of Hitler changed the course of the world, right? It veered one way, and then eventually we self-corrected. But again, it had an impact on how we view things, how we react to things now, because of the actions of one man. So we're just asking that question. If there is this character called Al Simmons Spawn, and he was as good as we think he can be, what's the fallout? Good, bad, or indifferent? What's the fallout 100, 200 years in the future of that? And everybody's going to take it and have a different message out of it, right? You have, using Hitler as an example, you have people go never again, and then you still have white supremacists. You have both still. So both branches took off. Arguably the same should happen with a fictional character like Spawn, that you just go, oh, what happens with him 100 years from now? There should be different factions. But ultimately it'd be a sci-fi, and then we'll come in and we'll do, like you mentioned, Leon Sharp doing Dark Ages. So now we'll do like sort of an ancient, sort of gritty, if you like Game of Thrones, you'll like that book. So
it looked like Conan also like Conan a little bit.
Right. So you got a historical book, And then if you do something like Spawn kills every Spawn, that's just fun, goofy. That's just fun, right? It has so now just in those four titles, you can get true detective, you get sci-fi, you can get fun sort of comedic stuff, and then you can get historical stuff in the past. Okay, I don't believe necessarily anybody's going to buy everything, but I just gave you four different options, right? Pick the one or two that you might like, and you don't have to buy them all. But what I don't want to do is give people the exact same thing over and over and over and over. Because if I'm going to do that, I might as well just make Spawn bi-weekly and come out twice a month if I'm just going to do another superhero book. And then, but we're also going to do superhero books, introduce characters as superheroes that have no relationship to heaven or hell. They're just superheroes, right? Got hit by a bolt of lightning. Oh my gosh, right? That again, will they run into Spawn in his world? Sure they will, but they'll have nothing to do with it, and so they'll like heaven and hell will be irrelevant to them. They're just going, no, I'm a superhero. I'm going to try and do good and save people. Easier said than done because you can't ignore this because this is fully formed. It's there. You can say you have nothing to do with it, but if you get in their way, then they're going to come after you. So there will be times where the two collide. But if you just want superhero, we're going to be doing some superhero stuff. Cool.
And there's also the No Home Here from Daniel Enriquez and Jonathan Glepin, which is really when we saw the pitch, that it really seems to be a really dark book indeed. So
it's gonna be that they're using more of the Spawn mythology, but they're doing it in a mature way. And the artwork by Jonathan Galapian is really evocative, right? I mean, I remember years ago when I first started seeing Bill Sienkiewicz artwork, right? It blew me away. Because I knew I would never ever come close to what he was doing. And so Jonathan is sort of has that style that's really odd and interesting, and either you love it or you're not, right? I mean, this is the thing about when you have do something different, right? I would argue like I took the safe route. I just took superheroes and I just made them a little prettier. But I always admire people who took chances and tried to change the look of what we think of as superhero comic books. So that book again is going to be, I hope, oddly interesting to people.
Okay. And you mentioned the movie just a few minutes ago.
Yep.
So I've got a question also about the movie, because you mentioned in a recent interview that you were willing like to give one last chance to Blumhouse and the Hollywood system in 2024. Otherwise, you would do it. You would do the movie in other ways. Is it
Yep.
still the case? Because last time we spoke, you seemed more optimistic about the production process. So
No. So right. So let me see if I can give a little more clarity to it. The people that are surrounded in it right now are all pros. They're very good, right? I mean, they made their entire careers doing it within the system, right? And so we're going to try that. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to try and do it that way. But we have to be realistic. We're living in an odd time in Hollywood where things are kind of upside down, right? I mean, you can sort of hear, sometimes you can even see it, even over Zoom, the panic that is in the city called Hollywood right now. And the reason is because they've built systems that are not sustaining themselves, right? Which basically means they're not making enough money.
Yeah.
And they
with
need
the
to make
streaming platforms, basically, that like
yeah.
they saw it like an Eldorado, which wasn't the case after all.
Right. So the problem, if you will, for a public company, and all the big studios are public, right? They trade their stock. Is they have to try and get the stock price to go up. That's their job. And the way to get the stock price up is you have to maximize your profits, right? So what happens when you're not making a lot of profits? Then the stock either goes sideways or it goes down. And that's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be going up. So I understand what their job is, but nobody, as far as I can tell right now, and I talked to a lot of people. I had a couple big meetings yesterday.
Mm.
I can tell by the conversation that nobody knows how to fix it. So that means in a time of uncertainty, and there's plenty of it here in Hollywood. There's there's only two kinds of people. I mean, I'm going to oversimplify. I think there's only two kinds of people, not in Hollywood, but at any time when uncertainty comes. You get those that are going to get conservative and play it safe.
Mm.
And then you're going to get the odd person who goes, we can't play it safe. We can't play it the old way. We have to try something a little dangerous, a little risky over here. But people who like risk, I mean, normal life, that's a small sliver of people. And so it's going to apply here in town. So I don't know. By the time we go in to sell the movie, and the movie is going to be, to use a great word from the writer, one of the writers who wrote the Joker movies, it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be risky. It's going to be unsafe. Script. Will Hollywood at that time be willing to take the proper risk? I don't know. It depends when we go out, right? If we go out, because Hollywood's, you can always bank on them too, is if we go out before, let's say, Joker 2,
Mm.
right? Then they don't have any data on Joker 2. And so who knows? I don't know. And maybe we will go out. If we go out after Joker 2, then they'll have data. And if the movie does amazing, then all of a sudden spawns an easy sell on a heartbeat. And if Joker 2 doesn't do what they want it to do, then they're like, oh, what else you got? Right. So I don't know. So everybody plays these chess games, but more importantly, it had nothing to do with, I would argue, a great script, which I think the writers are gonna, and Scott Silver himself are gonna deliver. Um, it's gonna have to do with the mindset of this city. Oh, if we think we've got a great script and we've got a good team, and this city can't figure that out, shoot, right?
Mm.
Shoot.
But
Finding people with money outside a system that quick.
it's
That
easy.
quick.
But because I remember that after the first Joker movie was out and it made like 1 billion from 50 millions budget production, you were always telling that Hollywood got interested in Spawn because it always seemed to me like this is going to be a not slow low budget movie, but it's not going to be more than $100 million movie. And still they didn't take in 5 years later and still haven't made a move.
Well, we didn't have. Well, to be fair, we didn't have the right script,
Mm.
right? I mean, I wrote one, and they didn't get sort of too excited about it. So we went and got some heavy hitter pros, and then a pandemic came, and 3 years go by, and then by the time we come out of the pandemic, then people were trying to figure out the city, and the studios lost billions of dollars during the pandemic. People stopped going to theaters, right?
Mm.
They still haven't returned to the level of pre-pandemic. That hasn't returned. And that's part of the problem. It's like, we're not getting a bunch of them on the streaming, and they're not going back to the theater. Like we lost two areas a little bit. The money is shrinking. It isn't growing. And so that's what they're dealing with. So then they, after the pandemic, they got conservative. And then just when they were starting to maybe move, then a strike, their actor strike and the writer strike came along. And that sort of wiped out like another 8 months to a year. Boom. Right. So 4 years of it was just bad timing. But
Mm.
we weren't the only ones in development that got caught up into it. But now here we are, right? Scott Silver was heavily involved in the Joker 2, and now the Joker 2 is done, right? I mean, it's now it's just sort of to the marketing people,
Yeah.
and he can go full tilt. I was with him last night for an hour and a half, right? So, and we did nothing but talk about the script, and he's got some really, really, I'm hoping, wonderful ideas that people think are as wonderful as I think they are. And I can just see how invested he is, right? So we have to just let it play out. And again, I always wish it moves faster than it does. But luckily, I have my day job. I get to do comics and toys. And
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to make and do something different, right? Well, ultimately, we all hope that it's good, different, and amazing, different. But you let you let the people who pay money to the film make those decisions. But um, I'm encouraged at how sincere that goal is by the people involved, especially the screenwriters, that they don't want to do Marvel light. They don't want to do something that's safe and predictable. They'd rather do something that maybe at times may even offend people.
Mm-hmm.
At least, at least it got people thinking a little bit. And so that's where we're heading. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Do I have the time for one last question, Todd?
Sure.
I noticed that you are more uh, proactive in the whole community management, may I say, because you've opened a newsletter for your fans. You're also doing like a contest for a cover, which you call
Yeah.
the Spanuary. Do you intend to do more stuff like that to just like I guess communicate more with your readers and also all the artistic communities that seems to be enjoying Spawn nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Because it
The,
takes
the,
some time, Todd.
the community is very loyal at times to me, and over the years have given me their hard-earned money so that I have had a good career and our family has had a good life. I'm thankful for that. So even if it's not good for business, even if it's just to say thank you, I like to hang out with the fans, and social media is sort of the easy place because you can live anywhere. I can interact with somebody, in Europe or somebody in Asia, on a level. And so yes, and you're right. Does it take an effort? Yeah, it does. But like we said at the very beginning, that I've got people.
Mm.
I've got a group of people. I'm fortunate if I've got a group of people that can help me with it. And so I think most creative people would be doing the same thing. They just don't have the luxury of being able to have a team of people because you have to pay them. So now you have to make more money. And most creative people that I know are doing the best they can just to make their own career viable. I mean, they can't afford 5 people,
Mm.
right? Let alone, between my two companies, I've probably got 85 employees, right? I've got lots of people. So, I mean, some of them are artists and some of them are accountants, and so they don't help. But I've got a handful of people that help help us interact, help me interact with our fan base. And it's only, again, think about it. If the comic books come out and do well and the movie comes out and does well, then it's only going to grow, right? And so we're going to have to figure out ways to interact even more. So I I I enjoy it. I mean, you have to get work done in between, but I don't mind it. And I think that I'm hoping that the fans that do interact get something out of it too.
And I'm hoping that the books will like work in the market, because we've been hearing from friends that 2023 was not a very good year for comic shops everywhere. So I really hope that the market will sustain in 2024, because it really seems to be odd, like you said, odd times, and even odd times for the comic book as a medium, because you've got so many much more entertainment forms of entertainment.
I at times when people say stuff like that, I usually like to get the data to back it up, right? Instead of just saying it. So you had sales were down here for years, and then the pandemic came. And oddly, because people were at home and couldn't travel, right? Couldn't go out, they started buying more comic books, right? So then we got like for 3 years in the pandemic, we were way up here. We were selling a lot of comic books, right? A lot. I mean, look at the sales total of the 4 books I put out in 2021, right? King Spawn sold over 500,000, right? Biggest selling new comic book in 20 years. So we went up. My books went up. Image Comics went up. Marvel, DC, everything went up, right? But the thing is, during that whole time, sales of toys went up. I kept saying to my employees, this isn't real. This is what we call false positive. It's good, it's nice, but it's not going to stay.
Yeah.
Because at some point they're going to be able to actually spend their money going to restaurants and going on airplanes and going buying rent a car. Like all that money is just sitting here. Now they're going to be able to spend it again. So the sales came down. Yes, they did. So 2023 was down. It was down from the high, right? But at least at Image, right? It's still above pre-pandemic.
Okay.
So all you ever want when you get a bounce on a graph is that when you come down, you get to move the floor up. So yes, are we slightly better than what we were pre-pandemic? But people who got comfortable during the pandemic and those sales, that was chasing fool's gold, right? Like I never do that. Like never live your lifestyle to a blip. That was a blip, 3 year blip, 3 year blip. And so I think people got comfortable, but no. And so I don't know. I the industry is as healthy, if not healthier than it was before the pandemic. I think it's just people who had 3 good years that they weren't being realistic about it. I knew, maybe because I've been in business for so long, I just know that these things happen. They go up and they go down, and they go up and they go down. And I never get too excited about the ups, because I know they're always coming back down.
But so I mean, at least for you, it's like you're still above the pre-pandemic levels of things. So
Oh yeah,
that's quite good to hear, because we've got the same stuff in France with like the sales are down 20% in volumes this year, but still, if you compare effectively to the pre-pandemic levels, it's still higher. So it's really quite difficult to to have like a bold statement about something when you don't have the data. But in France, we used to have, and even in the United States, we had like some websites to follow the data about the whole Diamond Comics. Every month we had the ranking and the sales, but we don't have them anymore. So it's really quite hard to follow, and maybe that's why people are saying that everything is collapsing. But hopefully, no, everything's not collapsing, and we have more.
No, because I see the sales data not only in my own book, but I see the sales data of all Image comic book. So no.
All right. Well, that's perfect, and I'm really eager to see some of the spawn books that are coming this year. And I just want to thank you again a lot, Todd, for your time. It's really, really great to have a writer who is willing to spend like maybe an hour with us. So really, I thank you, Todd. It was really nice to chat.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving us the time, right? So I can make books and I can put them out there, but I need good people like you to let people know that they exist, right? So, and once people know they exist, then they can go into the stores and buy them potentially. So I'm just as thankful for you giving us the time. So appreciate it.
And I will cut the recording right here. So it was good. You that was good for you. My question were not too dumb for you, I hope.
No, and here's